This is an introduction that's happening retroactively because the videos started on their own. There's an aliveness to them that comes through me, through Chelsea, that's being listened to. And if you're listening to this channel, you're probably interested in non-duality, or you found it, and maybe you're not. Maybe you have no idea what it is. But the language around speaking of not having a separate self, not being a separate self, not having an identity that you can hold on to, is different. Feels different than normal language and dialogue, and so there's an aliveness in wanting to introduce and say who I am and what this is, and to name it. And it's paradoxical because speaking about all of these experiences of life living itself and not being in control, not having an identity that's running the ship, or meeting expectations, or finding certainty. And talking about nothingness and emptiness and spaciousness, and talking about the things that we can't talk about. There's also self. Self doesn't go away, it's just seen through as never having been in my control, and never being separate from any of this, that I am part of the environment. I'm not in the environment, the environment interacts with me. And the freedom and not taking myself so seriously here has been freedom of appreciating self, who I am. And so there's a lot of that in probably the videos that come up, but there's a wanting to introduce myself and these videos. So I'm Chelsea, and there's so many roles that I play in my life that don't, of course they don't define me, but can be described and may be relevant to what gets talked about here, and wisdom that comes through here, even though it's not mine, it's life's wisdom, but life has happened here in certain roles. So I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a developmental psychologist, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I have a disability. I have trauma, I have wounding, I've healed. Life has recognized that it's already healed through me, and in that process, the separate self has died, is dying. It's not a one-time event, it's awakening again and again happens here to true nature, and in that process there's what appears to be often dying. There aren't really great words to name that, and I have and probably will continue to talk about it. And there's great love in that process, as painful as it is. And for me, it's happened through a conduit of disability, the falling away of separate self. I have multiple sclerosis, and the uniqueness of that disability has worked on the self in this way. And you'll see me close my eyes and pause and find language and find wrong language and right language and language that's like not totally satisfactory. And that's the unusualness of talking about all this, because it really can't be talked about, and I don't know why I am. It's just alive here, and life energy wants to, and there's no sense of who this is really going to be going to or where it's really going. But I might contradict myself, because aliveness in this moment can't be held on to, and then that appears maybe differently in different moments. And that's paradoxical, because multiple things can be true and misinterpreted, and that's fine. And I Another role of mine that I've played is teacher, meditation teacher, retreat leader. And when I introduce myself and I'm aware that the videos that are being posted by the nature of the internet and videoing encapsulates this moment in time and freezes it and then puts it out there, so that it's almost that I am leading a video. And in the same way that the mind can separate us, can appear to separate us from our experience, the technology can appear to separate us even further from this alive moment that's being recorded, and then it appears to happen again on a screen. And it's quite mysterious how watching a video can ignite aliveness in you, but don't mistake the video for your own aliveness. And I'm saying that because when I say that one of my roles as a teacher in my life in general, I'm not actually feeling that there's no teaching happening here. And that's not an intention. Maybe there's some mentorship or friendship or I don't know what may happen in this. I don't mind leading in a certain way. I feel there is a natural affinity in moments to lead in the authenticity of what's coming up, but I don't want anyone to mistake wisdom that's coming up from this and through this as belonging to me, as me being different or having something. And I feel that when that's not explicitly stated, then it becomes an assumption. And I was raised in a Catholic church where the priests were between me and God, and that never resonated, that never felt alive. And in spirituality, of any form, and Advaita Vedanta, Buddhism, even modern mindfulness, I think teachers can be placed in that role inadvertently, of being between you and your aliveness or your spirituality or your truth. And so why this is being spoken, why there's so many pauses, and why the language is imperfect and messy, and why this is happening in me through a disability and so many other things, as well as being a parent and having a life that's demanding, and is that life is just happening. It doesn't belong. So it doesn't belong to me. And so this is an introduction. I don't know where this is leading, but I am called to name who I am and to feel affection towards this self, as I'm also seeing through it, feeling the heart that's alive, and in just being able to be alive in this way and express in the way that it's expressing, without the conditioning that has layered on top of this self. And I think the last thing that will be named in this introduction is how much conditioning has played a part in who Chelsea has been supposed to be her whole life, and the expectations, the kind of control that happens in what we learn from other people about who we should and shouldn't be. That is a big reason why we become separate. I mean, that is the reason. And so conditioning is something you'll hear me talk about. Yeah, so it's a pleasure to speak in this way, and to not know who will ever listen. And I'm sure there are other aspects that I could introduce that haven't arisen, and many of them really can't be put to words. And that may be between the words that I say, the biggest thing that could be shared